Welcome back. So let's talk about drug tests for students. That's a proposal coming from the NDLEA, the regulators and the people that enforce drug-related offenses across the country. The spokesperson of the NDLEA, Director of Media and Advocacy of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Mr. Femi Babafemi, joins us from Abuja today. It's good to see you, Mr. Babafemi. Most times we see you in your weekend writings of how you've been cracking down and burning places that are doing illegal stuff. But it's good to see you in person.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Babafemi, so let's get straight to it. Maybe you begin to unpack for us in maybe a brief version of what this move by the NDLEA, I almost say NNPC, forgive me, the NDLEA, God, we're talking field, so you can't blame me. The NDLEA has made a move. The NDLEA has made a move concerning students as far as drug use is concerned. What's the rationale behind this?
Yes, when you look at the drug use situation in the country, it's actually not acceptable. That based on the 2018 National Youth Drug Survey, which gives us a figure of 14.3 million Nigerians aged 15 to 64 abusing illicit substances, that you cannot say is acceptable in any clime. And here in Nigeria, government have been very, very up and doing in this regard to ensure that we cut down not only on the supply, but also on the demand for this. And one of the efforts, it's some of the initiatives that the agency have put in place, whether, through War Against Drug Abuse, Social Advocacy Initiative, or Save Our Families campaign, all of which are geared towards reducing the demand for substance or illicit substances by our citizens. And the drug test thing that came, it's actually not something new. The Chairman Chief Executive of the agency, General Mawa, actually started this campaign since 2021, and it's all part of the wider advocacy initiative, and it's not just limited or restricted to students. It's also something that we've been asking prospective couples, we've been asking those who are going for employment interviews, those even within who are working already, as well as even political office seekers. I'm sure you remember some years ago when there was to be an election, this also came up, and so it's something that has been ongoing, and we are glad indeed that quite a lot of institutions have bought into this policy and are already doing it. I can say, for instance, in the University of Abuja, it's one of the requirements for you to be admitted. You have to undergo drug screening, drug test, which the agency has been working with the university, and quite a lot of other institutions across the country are already doing this, including workplaces, government institutions. The NDLEA started it. We can't go out to say this is what people should do without doing it within our own organization. So we started that also, and we're taking it to other institutions, and we're glad that quite a lot of institutions and private organizations are already buying into it. The whole essence of that is, first, to prevent when people know that they are likely to be tested, for instance, before going to school, or that as fresh students, or before coming back as returning students, there is that level of deterrence. They want to be careful. They don't want to be caught in the web. Not that we are pushing that these people should be expelled from the school, but it's to enable authorities detect early and bring support or provide support to these people. For instance, if they are detected early, it's easier to treat at that point than to allow the situation deteriorate to the point of addiction or dependence, which becomes complicated and complex. So we don't want such situations, and that's why we're pushing for this. And good enough, again, the agency just in June this year, on that's the June 26th World Drug Day, we went a step ahead, a step further by initiating the Save Our Families campaign, which is also to mobilize families, homes. We produced in tens of thousands test kits. I mean, authentic, original test kits that people can, in the comfort of their homes, use just as they use test kits to test their sugar or blood pressure. So this is also available for people to use in their homes to ensure to see whether their kids, their wards are already abusing illicit substances. When their kids or their wards know that indeed their parents have this at home, they have to be more careful. They wouldn't want to do that. Even as an individual, it's something that I buy and give to my friends who come to visit. That's to show that it's something we all involved in. It's something that our commands across the country are also taking around. We have it in all our commands that everybody is talking about at those levels in all the advocacy campaigns or in all our sensitization lectures, just to mobilize everybody to see this as part and parcel of the process, the collective process to cut down on the demand for substance abuse. Just the same way people go when people want to go for wedding, they go for HIV test, they go for genotype test. The same thing we're pushing, that people should also make this as part of that process to help themselves and also help the society.
All right, so talking about helping themselves and helping the society, how will you now help them? For example, since we're focusing on tertiary institutions and students testing, walk us through how that will work. I know you have said you're working in partnership with these universities to do this test. So are those tests going to be conducted in the university? Are the results going to be assessed by the university or the NDLEA? And in cases where they find people culpable, what happens? Is it the NDLEA that will be providing that alternative treatment or whatever it is to help these people found to be culpable of this crime? I mean, what is the process like? Just how will it even work in terms of implementation?
Yes, we're treating this as a public health issue, so we're not treating it as a crime. Let me quickly put that in perspective. So whoever is tested, whoever tests positive to drug use in that situation, that's why I did say it in my earlier comments, that it's not punitive in nature. It's just something it's preventive. So we don't, that's why we work with these institutions, we collaborate with them so that the people who test positive are not punished or expelled from the school. They are taken for treatment. They are taken for treatment to get them, to wean them off these substances and also to get them reintegrated back into their classes, back into their academic pursuit. So basically when they are tested and they test positive, is to detect early and bring support for them. If perhaps some of these institutions have counseling and treatment centers, those that don't have, we have our command, we have 30 of our treatment and counseling centers across the country, and we have 3 more coming up in the next couple of weeks. All of these are provided for people to get support and treatment. And apart from that, we also have a 24-hour call center where we have mental health experts, counselors, clinical psychologists, psychotherapists, and psychiatric doctors that provide this also on telephone. We have a toll-free helpline that people can always call and get the needed support. All of these we provide to ensure that people are not just tested and left or abandoned, they also get support. And even right on our test kits, we have our toll-free helpline that people can, in the comfort of their home, call and get the needed support, guidance, and get support for those their loved ones that test positive.
All right. So let's just step back a bit and get some things clear. This suggestion, is it in force already or still at the realm of suggestion?
No, it's something that has been ongoing. I did say earlier that it's something that was introduced since 2021 by the chairman of the agency himself, General Maura. So it's not something,
no, I get that point. Pardon me. I mean that how many schools are now doing drug tests for prospective entrants? That's what I mean. Is that in force already?
Yes, quite a lot of schools are already doing that. I may not be able to say specifically the number of schools, but I can tell you that indeed quite a lot of both government and private institutions, they are already doing this. We work with them, we encourage them, and we also continue to push for those that are still not doing it to take it as a policy, as one of, as their internal policy to ensure that our students are made to, like I did say, don't forget that this is not just about students alone, it's something that cuts across all other strata of our society.
Indeed. I just want to clear those things. So can you mention some of those schools? And it's also important to know what the model is. Who pays for this? Is it the NDLEA that supports? Because you've produced kits. Is it the school that bears the burden, or the students that bear the burden? So you can tell us some of the schools that you've worked with actively and are still working with, and then who bears the cost?
Yeah, first is a test. If an individual goes to the hospital to get tested for malaria or any other ailment, you pay for that. It's not going to be borne by the hospital management or the owners of the hospital. So in this case, it's not something that is being borne by the NDLEA or by any other individual. It's something that will be borne by the beneficiary of that service. So, but then ours is we provide the service free of charge, but the kit itself is not free. It's something that ranges between 5,000 and 10,000 naira. That depending on the type of kits being used. But then that is something that the individual will pay for. And talking of the institution, I did also say that earlier that University of Abuja specifically, I know that because some of their students come to our office here in Abuja, and I know that indeed we've had meetings with the management of the institution. I know also that they've been doing that, and quite a number of other private universities are also doing this. I may not be able to mention their names, but then I know these institutions across in all parts of the country. These are institutions, but because University of Abuja is a public institution, that's why I can mention their names, and I know it's not something that is also hidden. It's something they have come out publicly to also disclose in their public communication.
So help us walk through some of the things you intend to do when you have found them. You mentioned it, but maybe let me go back to, before I come to this particular question. It looks like the approach is more like for damage control. So for instance, what I mean by that is the person may have taken the drug, and then you catch the person is a drug user, and whatever form of intervention you put out, whether in collaboration with the school or solo on the end of the school. What else is the agency doing to ensure that these students don't even get involved in the first place? Because they say prevention is actually quite more cheaper and is better than cure.
Absolutely. It's said that an ounce spent in prevention is worth a pence in law enforcement or in treatment. So definitely it's cheaper, and that's why we're driving the advocacy first to sensitize the people. That's the whole essence of our war against drug abuse, wider social advocacy, to mobilize everybody to buy in and take ownership of this whole campaign, to raise the level of awareness, because when people get to know about the dangers of what they are going to go into, there is that tendency that they want to restrain or abstain from that. First is to raise awareness, which we're doing. All our commands across the country work with civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations, to go to schools, marketplaces, workplaces, communities, and everywhere. Every week, we produce short videos of this every weekend, which we share on our social media and do all of these activities to raise awareness first, so that people will understand the dangers of abusing these illicit substances. That is one. Two, and that another level is to provide the test kits that will enable people to discover, to clear their doubts, whether indeed their words or their children are already abusing these illicit substances, which will first serve as, provide a deterrent effect, and at the same time also facilitate early detection and treatment, treatment when that is discovered. Apart from that, we also go a step further by providing services on our own, counseling and treatment services in all our commands. And for those that cannot even access those commands due to space or time, then we also have a toll-free helpline where we provide the same support that people will walk into a rehab center, a treatment center to get. So all of this we're doing to ensure that we cut down on the demand for these illicit substances.
All right, Mr. Babafemi, so in terms of following up right now, is it just for the 4 years where these students will be in school? We know what drug does. Most times you start it and then rehabilitation comes and then rehab and treatments and they're fine. And in another, maybe after some years, they go back to it again. So is there any platform to help follow up on these people who maybe fall victim of this? Because you've said it's not a crime, it's just a health issue that you want to help them tackle. So after they leave school, is there any platform that helps them say, okay, like a group? I know abroad they have groups where they're like checking up on each other, knowing that, okay, they haven't gone back to this drug and all of that. What is your follow-up plan like for these students after they leave school?
Thank you. Even right from the school, we don't also leave them alone. That's why we have WADA clubs, or what we call drug-free clubs within these schools, where, just like you said, just to provide some peer support for each other or one another. For those that are not abusing illicit substances yet, this club work with school authorities, work with the NDLEA to raise awareness, to encourage those that are out of it to keep clean. That is one. And for those, and this is not a one-off thing. The test, it's not a one-off thing. That's why we encourage right from the homes, right from the families. Even when they are on break or when they are when they have graduated, these students have graduated, when they are in their homes, their parents can still go ahead and be doing this. And we have quite a lot of parents that are working with us on all of this. So it's not a one-off thing. It's something that you have to do until that person builds that level of resilience that will be able to resist the pressure or the temptation of going into substance abuse. So it's not something that is one-off. It's something that has to continue. It has to be persistent. We have to. So that's why these initiatives or this system is being built across all layers, starting from the homes, even religious places, worship centers, workplaces, and even in the institutions. So wherever you may be, wherever bracket you fall in, there is that system in place there to be able to conduct this drug test, so that, and when you know that whether you are going to be going to school, you have that possibility of going through a drug test, you are going to be getting employment, you have that system in place for drug tests. Whether you are going to be going for marriage, you have also that system in place for drug tests. So all of this will put such individuals in check, so that they won't be able to succumb to the pressure or the temptation of going into substance abuse.
And well, we must commend the NDLEA for the work being done, particularly for, you know, young people who, of course, are vital to our nation. Imagine if we had this this pandemic really widespread. You can only imagine what the future of our nation would be. But that's on the one hand. On the other hand is you then have people who are in charge of millions of lives. I'm talking about politicians. Either you're running for National Assembly, State Assembly, you're running for governor, you're running for president, what have you. I know there's been that proposal, but when are we going to start having drug tests for political office holders? Mr. Babafemi, these people are responsible for the lives of millions. One decision they make can topple the nation or a state or local government. So when is that coming through? I know that General Buba Marwa had spoken about this, but when are we going to have that one for politicians, those who want to vie for office?
Again, I'll tell you that indeed, this is a public health issue, which, I mean, it's something that has been ongoing. Again, I would say, I know, for instance, a state in Nigeria where this was adopted as a policy for anybody going for any appointment. For you to get an appointment in that state, or for you to get into an elective office in that state, you have to go through, you have to undergo drug test. In fact, let me be specific. That's Kano State. under former Governor Ganduje. It was a state policy. So it's not something that is, the political parties, the chairman of the agency indeed wrote for all political parties then, not just targeting those at the top, even right from the grassroots, from the councillors, councillors, chairmanship positions and contesting for houses of assembly, national assembly, all across board.
Mr. Babafemi,
it's not
this should be in the electoral law. I think this should be put in the electoral law, mandatory, not political parties. INEC, just as we have schools, let INEC be the one to at least conduct it, or some sort of arrangement that is not within the powers of the political party. That's when we'll have some real change. So are you saying, for example, that former Governor Ganduje took a drug test, rather, or the current governor took a drug test before he came into office? You know, these are the issues, Mr. Babafemi.
Yes, you know, this is not in the law. This is just an advocacy initiative. It's just something we're encouraging the society. It's just something we're encouraging all stakeholders to buy into, to take, just like nobody, it's not in the law for anybody to go for HIV and AIDS test or genotype test before they get, they get married. But people do it voluntarily. So we are also, if perhaps, we can't say tomorrow or some years, this may be in the law, but before then, we are advocating that this can be adopted as a... Yes, please.
So that I'll put it on record. So for the students now, is it going to be a law for them to be tested?
Sorry, can you come again?
I said for the students, is it going to be a law for them to be tested? Is that what you're pushing for, the NDLEA?
Yeah, we're pushing for that, for this initiative, to be adopted as a policy. Internal policy within these institutions, just like a lot of government institutions are doing it.
But it's not in the law.
It's not in law, but it's an internal policy.
That's why we're saying that if you're pushing as hard as you're pushing for students, why can't the organization or the agency push as hard as possible for political office holders who are even more dangerous when they go awry managing our commonwealth?
Yes, for the political office holders, don't forget that I did say that indeed we tried to work with some of the political parties then, and some of them bought into it. That I can tell you. And again, I did also say that even a state government even adopted this as part of their policy in the state then. And I should think that that system is still ongoing in that state because it's a state. It was a state policy, and I know that it's something well accepted in the state. And even just recently, I was at a wedding with the chairman of the NDLEA, General Ma himself, where this was also, when they were bringing up their certificates for HIV genotype, they presented the drug test also, which was very exciting. It was...
All right, Mr. Babafemi, let's just wind up. But I must say this because we also must commend the NDLEA for what they are doing. I think that in the budget, your budget is about 50 billion. Is that enough? Do you need more money?
You said what?
I say your budget, I think, is about 50 billion. We are commending you for some of the work you have done so far as NDLEA in repositioning the agency. Under General Buba Marwa. The money you have, because I know that more than half of that money goes to overhead and personnel, leaving just less than about 20 billion for whatever capital expenditure you have to do. Is that sufficient? Is that something you want to say to the government now to, maybe mark up a bit?
Absolutely. The kind of work we do affects every strata of the society. So, this really demands a lot of support. And we're glad that indeed the government is well seized of this situation. And we're also appreciative that the government is doing its best to support us along with all our other stakeholders. We're glad. But then it's not, we can't say it's enough at the moment because we have quite a lot in the area of enforcement and again in the area of bringing support to those who are struggling with substance abuse. We need more support. That I can tell you very well, and we appreciate that.
All right, Mr. Femi Babafemi, Director of Media and Advocacy of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. Thank you so much, sir. But we must tell you, as this electoral Act is being, looked at to be amended, I think the NDLEA should push harder enough to ensure that drug test is mandatory for all aspiring political office holders. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you. It's always my pleasure.